Pause or stop recording. So it's going. Let me just. Mhm. We'll start with the phone. Yeah, we can wait for a text. This is all on Zoom. This is probably going to go on my YouTube for people to hear. I get it. I love it. Okay. So, guys, welcome to Beyond the Game Mind and Body podcast. Yes, sir. And you want to know what we do here? We explore the palpable connection between mental health and athletics. I'm your host, Michael Couture. Right now, I'm in grad school studying to become a mental health therapist and a lifelong athlete. In today's episode, we often hear about the physical side of sports, the training, the competition, the victories, but we never hear about the toll it can take on a person's mental well-being. So to shed some light on this, I'm excited to have a special guest with me today. Joining me is a friend who not only played sports throughout high school, but also throughout his entire life still. He's here to share some personal experiences with mental health challenges athletes face behind the scenes. We're going to hear about the pressures, the struggles, and the lessons learned along the way. So grab a seat, whether you're an athlete, coach, parent, fan. This conversation is for everyone who cares about the mind-body connection and wants to see mental health take a rightful place in the sports world. So welcome to the podcast, Alex. Glad you're here.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the first question, let's start from the beginning. What was life like for you growing up?
Life was very challenging. Life was very difficult. I think that, there was many struggles, but I think a lot of those struggles made me the man that I am today. Without them, I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have now. I wouldn't know the people that I know now. It was very, very difficult. But I learned that through that process, I've just become so strong, honestly, man.
Perfect. I love that. And just to shed some light about who you are, can you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just let everyone know who you are.
I got you. So, yes, I grew up in Cranston. I to be honest, my parents weren't always together. They were kind of on and off for a little bit. They got divorced. But it was a tough toll. It took a toll on me. My sisters. Me and my sisters, we really had to take care of ourselves. We really had to, just go out there, and really do things for ourselves, like grab food. We used to have to, sleep at my grandparents' house, just to try and get away from a lot of the nonsense. So I think anybody that's out there that may be struggling, or dealing with something, if you find a good outlet, if you find something that'll kind of take you away from that negative energy, and introduce yourself to just positive people, positive energy. Um, because it's not going to be easy. In life, you constantly struggle. No matter what no matter what you do, your next struggle is around the corner. So it all depends on how you handle it, man.
Oh, man. What role did faith, mindset, or personal belief play in that journey?
Personal belief, personal belief is a big one for me. Just really believing in yourself. A lot of people have a lot of self-doubt, and self-doubt has really stopped me a lot in the past. It's really prevented me from growing, doing the things that I'm doing now. You know, Before I was a very sheltered person. I didn't really go out too much. I didn't really do a lot of things. I wasn't really experiencing and enjoying life. But I noticed ever since I kind of got out of my comfort zone, started going out there, started meeting the right people, hanging around the right people, it really changes your perspective of everything, man.
With all those struggles, what was your biggest win and how did it feel?
My biggest
struggles.
Oh man, my biggest win was getting my car. Um, my car was my biggest win, just because I would wake up in the morning. I would walk to work at, like, 5 in the morning, and then go to work out, work, and then walk home. And I did that for about 9 months. On top of that, I was reading knowledge. And I was trying to figure out how to, start a business. I just kept myself very, very busy. It was definitely a very, difficult point in my life, but it also gave me so much. It taught me so much, man.
With you walking in the rain, you just said to work and everything, what would you tell someone that is doing that right now, walking to work every day? Like, what would you say to them?
It's only temporary, my friend. It's only temporary. And if you really know what you want and you're really willing to go that far to get it, man, you got a lot of people beat. because there's a lot of people, my age and, your age too, that just don't have that mindset. But even if for me, it was all just about taking the first step, really. And I mean this literally, just walking outside, walking to work. And I mean, just really just taking that first initiative, because if you don't do anything, you'll get nothing. I want people to realize that if you do nothing, like if you don't get anything, you will get nothing at all. It's just unfortunate.
Looking back, how do you feel about your past now? Are you proud of the person you've become?
In my past, I was a very angry man. I was a very angry person. And I'm so glad that I was able to find some positivity in my life. There's many times where, I would either let what somebody else thinks of me bother me, or, somebody would be out there talking smack, but you realize that brings you no benefit at all. You know what I'm saying? It,
Right.
it, it takes a lot more strength to, hold yourself back, and, it aggravates people. People want to get a reaction out of you, but if you don't give it to them, they get even more aggravated themselves. And I never wish ill upon anybody. I think everybody has their own struggles, and I think they really allow it to get to them. They really, really allow it to get to them. But if you just realize that you can change your life at any moment you want. That's the great thing about life. You can change it at
Mhm.
any moment you want.
Biggest thing is changing it.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
When you were walking to work every day, what kind of mental, emotional state were you in during those times?
So I'm not gonna lie. I was it was a very sad situation. I felt very sad a lot. Because I see all these cars driving by and I'm like, man, I really want one of those, and sometimes, there's a little bit of anger too. But I knew that if I just kept doing the thing, just kept staying consistent, just kept on going, that I would eventually get somewhere. And I believe that part of that is just maintaining the faith within yourself. As you were mentioning earlier, like faith is a big thing, man, because if you don't believe in yourself, you got nothing. You have nothing, man. So, self-belief, self-doubt, all those things. I mean, if you're having self-doubt, if you're having doubt, I mean, that's normal. You should doubt yourself when you're going into something, and it's just a normal part of life. But you should be cautious when you're going into it. But don't let that hold you back. Don't let that hold you back. I mean, I was walking around a lot of homeless people. I was
Mhm.
walking around, I was walking in the dark, I worked extra hours. Um, but I was just so committed to the grind, I was I didn't want to see people constantly getting ahead of me
Mhm.
when I'm trying, I just want to try and catch up. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that right mentality. So going off that question, did you struggle with self-worth or feeling less than while others had more opportunities and access to things?
Yes. So I did struggle with that for a little bit. I would call it, being a little jealous of people that don't, that have more things than me. But there's also something that I like to tell myself, and I've learned this just a little while ago, and that it doesn't matter what the other person has. What do you have? What do you have, man? Doesn't matter what he has. That's not yours. You're not going to be enjoying that. What do you have? What can you make out of this life you were given? Because everybody's given a different hand in life. Everyone, different cards, different ways to play the game. Some people get it handed to them and then they fall, they blow all their money. And, I want to be the guy that makes a lot of money and gets to keep it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
I like
So
how you said that have your hand. Everyone gets a different hand.
everyone gets a different hand.
How did depression, anxiety, or stress show up in your life when you were in survival mode?
That's a good way to put it, actually, survival mode. I felt like, yeah, it was very hard. I mean, there was some very sad days, and I think depression and anxiety stem from, doing the things that you're not, that you should be doing, that you're not doing. Like, a lot of that sadness came from me feeling like I wasn't doing enough. But I realized that what I was doing was already enough, day in and day out. I just had to realize that. I mean, even when you're doing bad, you're still not doing as bad as other people. But even when you're doing good, you're not doing as good as you
Yeah.
think, you know?
Was there a specific moment where your mental health hit a low point, and how did you pull through?
What pulled me through was, and David Goggins talks about this in his book, and he was actually a big help, David Goggins, because he went through a lot of struggles in his life himself.
Before you say that, can you explain who gave it David Goggins is?
So yes, David Goggins is a Navy SEAL. He's a retired Navy SEAL. He's also an ultra marathon runner. In his book, Can't Hurt Me, he explains a lot about the struggles he went through. He ran with broken toes. He ran hundreds and hundreds of miles, ultra marathons, stuff that people wouldn't normally be able to do. And that's why I respect him a lot because he's able to not only push his body so far, but his mind too. Your mind is great to train. You shouldn't just train your body. You also need to train your mind a lot. And that's another thing too. If you constantly are training your mind, you have the room for growth, but if you just are constantly staying in the same mental state all the time, you're not going to be able to grow as a person for sure.
Did the pressure of constantly having to grind take a toll on your emotional well-being?
Oh yes, it took a big toll on me, but I must say it was very worth it, man. It was so worth it. The amount of the amount of dopamine that you get after completing a big task like that, it makes you hungry for more, because once I got my car, I was like, dang, this is awesome. Finally I got something nice. But at the same time, I was like, all right, what's next? What's next to do? I mean,
it's always something.
I just walked in the rain for 9 months for my vehicle. So like, man, what can really top that? What can like be the next level? And I'm still searching for that right now.
You got plenty of time to find that.
For sure.
What did loneliness feel like when you were going through your darkest times?
Loneliness, a lot of people say loneliness is bad. Sometimes, I mean, loneliness can be bad, if you're by yourself and you're feeling really down. But I noticed that when I'm very productive when I'm alone personally. This may not be for other people, but when I'm alone, I'm very, very productive. I'm able to get things done, because I feel like it takes it's a form of self-love. When you're able to be by yourself and you're able to take care of yourself by yourself, it's a form of self-love for sure.
How did you view how did the view of yourself shift as you started to overcome your circumstances?
To be real with you, you know, as I started to overcome those really, really difficult circumstances, as you just said, um, I realized that, everybody, not just me, man, everybody has their own struggles in their own life. And who am I to say, oh, I have it bad, I have this and that. Like I always remind myself, somebody else has it worse. I mean, we live in a very good, country. I mean, some people may have other opinions and views on it. But we live in a country where we're able to wake up in the morning and know that we're all right.
So I love that because I always look back at my life and all the things that I went through, and I always tell people that even though I went through those hard times with my life, there's still so many people in the world that go through so much worse, and I can only imagine how bad it was.
Definitely.
So that's why I'm grateful for the life that I was given.
I also want to mention this too, going off of what you just said. I mean, this is kind of a separate thing, but forgiveness, it takes a lot more to forgive somebody and forget. I mean, well, you can forgive, just don't forget. You know what I'm saying? Um, that's the thing. Like when you, it takes a lot more strength than to hold on to that anger, because when you hold on to that anger, it's like a poison. It only consumes you. But when you don't hold on to that anger and you shift your mindset, you're able to grow a lot more. I mean, yeah, with a bodybuilding competition, stuff like that, just going out there running, just doing things that are really going to benefit yourself.
Was there a specific coping mechanism that helped you, like journaling, music, faith, or even just silence, or just anything?
Specific music really kept me going. It was, I listened to some stuff about people who were also struggling and, the struggles that they talked about. For example, Joyner Lucas, he had a pretty rough childhood growing up. um, and listening to his music, kind of helped me get through those dark times. Reading was a really, really big one for me. Because I used to never like reading, but I realized that there's people that are doing things out there that we're trying to do, and we can definitely learn from them. And it can also make you, you know, how do I put it, see a lot more than usual, especially in like situations, public situations, like, you get an idea of what, like a better idea of what's out there in the world, I feel personally.
Were there any what were there days when you felt like breaking? How did you fight through those mentally?
So it's crazy, man. There were many days where I felt like giving up, many days where I felt like breaking, like it was my breaking point. Um, but to be honest, like, even though I felt like that, I knew that I just kept telling myself, I knew that if I was to give up, I wouldn't have anything. I would not have anything. Um, and that was a really big one for me because, in the hot sun or walking in the rain, um, just dealing with things like that. Like in your head, you're just like, man, I feel bad for everybody else who has to work as hard as I do. You know what I mean? But like, you got to realize that, you really gain a really different perspective and respect for yourself. Like the fact that I was able to go out there and do that, like I get to do this. Like, I feel like I was, kind of turning myself into like a warrior a little way. Because I mean, if you really think about it, life back a few hundred years ago was way different. We didn't have everything that we have today. So I have a lot more respect for those people who lived back then, for just walking places, not having access to everything. Um, I mean, snap, dude. I ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, every day for 9 months. So, I ate the same stuff. I saved up a bunch of money. And all, even though it was hard, like it just felt so good because I knew I was getting somewhere. And people don't realize as long as you just apply yourself and just keep on going, just stay with it because you got to stick with something. If you're just constantly going different places, you're going to get lost.
Mm-hmm. It's a struggle. Did the way people treat you back then affect your mindset and mental health long term?
So, I mean, people, I'm not gonna lie, people were very disrespectful to me. People treated me badly. Um, but the gym was always there for me. Learning how to make money was always there for me. Those are two things that would, really never leave me. Those things were there for me when people were disrespecting me doing those things. And so a lot of the anger, man, just, take it out on the weights. And I mean, yeah, it messed with me. It messed with me mentally a little bit, but you realize that those people are going through something in their own lives that they feel like they need to take out on other people. And that's what made me change my perspective on that. Because nobody in the right state of mind would talk to or treat a person bad, you know?
They always say people who bully people, there's always something that happens to them. And
Definitely.
that's why they do it.
Exactly, bro. Straight up, man.
How did you find peace and or purpose while still living in pain?
That's a really good question. Um, I look at it like this. I just I had to change my associations with pain and pleasure, you know? A lot of people don't realize, don't really even know about that. You can change your associations with pain and pleasure by saying things, telling yourself, I get to do this. I get to work these long hours. I get to, you know, drive my car. I get to go do these things, instead of, oh man, I got to wake up in the morning. I got to work hard. I gotta, go to work, because if you go into it like that, you're gonna create a lot of mental pain for yourself. Most of people's pain comes from their mind, their state of mind. It's never really the physical aspect. Most of people's pain is just stemmed from them creating thoughts with their imagination. You never know what a person's thinking. I mean, honestly.
Exactly. What advice would you give to someone dealing with both financial struggle and depression right now?
I would say believe in yourself and you can do it. You can really do it. I mean, I'm definitely an example, but there's also people who have done greater things than I have done out there. There's people that are still struggling right now, still trying to create that business, still trying to get after it, and I have the utmost respect for them. Just believe in yourself. Believe yourself that you could do it. I mean, even Arnold says that, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he says, you just got to believe in yourself. You got to have a vision for yourself, a blueprint. And once you start, you know, carving out that boulder, that rock, you start chipping away, you start to see, everything starts to fall into place, man. Straight up.
Two questions to end this. Looking back, how did your mental health evolve as your life started to change?
Man, that's good, man. Freaking, I gotta say, just really doing things that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to compete in a bodybuilding competition. I've always wanted to run a half marathon or, a 5K, and I realized that, I wasn't doing those things because I was stopping myself. I felt like I wasn't good enough. But, bro, just try it. Try it. Try something. You're only alive once. Some of the biggest, I wouldn't even call it a risk, just some of the biggest risks bring some of the biggest rewards. I mean, try it because, failure is just an illusion. Failure is not real. Everything's a lesson. If you can learn from it and if you can take something from that and you can apply it to the future, it's a lesson. I feel like, you know, everybody's got some sort of blueprint, some sort of plan, but they don't act upon it. If you start making just minor adjustments, start doing things. I mean, plans can also be changed too. Nothing has to be set in stone.
Lastly, do you believe your hardships gave you a stronger mental foundation? And if so, in what way?
I would say my hardships made me stronger, not just like mentally, but physically. Um, I was, I was working jobs that I didn't like. But his the experience part in that actually, I realized what I didn't want out of life. I didn't want to be some retail associate somewhere. I didn't want to be some construction worker out there. Those are definitely lessons for me. And I think that, yeah, I mean, you just got to take it as a lesson, you know? And, hardships, man, like, I know they may hurt in the moment, but pain is temporary. And that's what people got to remember is the pain is temporary. It won't last. You will still be alive at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Love that. Well, that is the end for Beyond the Game. Thank you, Alex, for joining us today.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you next time. Bang, bang.
That was actually really good.